Welcome to the debrief. It's your boy Curtis Daly. Obviously, the Saturdays are going to be the chill ones. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone's had a good Saturday. I'm getting a feedback loop of myself. I don't know if that is me or not. I'm going to quickly sort this out. Strange. Yes. So tonight I will be joined by Callum Little. Callum, how are we doing?
Hello, I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. I've just realised why I was hearing myself. It's because I had the YouTube stream open.
That would do it, wouldn't it?
God, that would do it. Yeah, so basically, we are going to talk about the CPAC, American Conservative Party. What's it? What does the American CPAC stand for, actually? Carl, do you know? Can't remember. Anyway, people will let us know in the chat. So basically, we've got a couple of clips of CPAC, and obviously, insane shit went down. We've got Nazi salutes, and yes, I said salutes as in plural because there's more than one. And basically, it's going to be a lot of just Elon Musk bashing, because obviously the debrief is a bit more chilled vibes, a bit more reaction, and basically we're just going to engage with the chat for an hour or so. We've got 38 people watching already, so welcome aboard. We're obviously going to see more of you, and it's good to see familiar faces. But I think we're gonna jump into our first video already, and that is actually Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon decided to do what some people like to say the Roman salute. Sorry, it's a fucking Nazi salute. Conservative Political Action Conference. Amazing, thank you. Yeah, Steve Bannon doing the Nazi salute. We've got a couple of clips we're going to go through, and then we're just going to open up to the chat afterwards. So let's play the first video.
Retreat. We're not going to surrender. We're not going to quit. Fight, fight, fight.
I mean, that's wild stuff, isn't it? I mean,
he's not even hiding that one, is he? He's not.
Did you hear the audio on that one?
Yes.
Okay, good. I didn't get it at my end. But he said, fight, fight, fight. And that's what they all seem to do, don't they? They all seem to couple that salute with like the same wording. So they can't really... They try and claim plausible deniability, but they can't, can they?
No, but the thing is as well, this all started with Elon Musk's, heart goes out to you thing.
Yeah.
And even though that was obviously a Nazi salute, and there's no misunderstanding what he was doing, the way in which he did it. Everybody made an excuse and tried to claim that it was something else, and and it's this and it's that. Steve Bannon's not even attempting to cover it up as anything else. He's literally doing the salute, coupling it with fight, 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 like you say. But it, like in the space of what, 2 weeks, something like that, 3 weeks, we've gone from oh no, it's not really a Nazi salute to yeah, we just don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah, but in speaking about like plausible deniability, he is denying it. So this is an article pulled up. So Steve Bannon denies using Nazi salute and says he was just waving. And I've got a quote from the Sky article, and it says, during his speech, he extended his right arm in the air, his palm flat after imploring the crowd to fight, fight, fight. The gesture drew an immediate backlash due to its similarities with the salute linked to the Nazis and their allies. However, Mr. Bannon told a reporter after the event that it was a wave like I did it all the time. I do it at the end of all my speeches to thank the crowd, he added. So there's him literally denying it.
Well, if he does, we can fact check that, right? I don't think we have, but we can, we can fact check that. If he says he does this at the end of all his speeches,
I mean, I'm gonna go out on a whim and say I don't think he's done it on every single speech.
I'm gonna assume that that's the same. Yeah, and it's just the other point here as well, though, is that they know what they're doing. This isn't some it was an accident, we were waving and it got after the backlash from what happened with Musk. They know exactly what they are doing, and they are doing it deliberately because they are trying to appeal to a very particular type of person, and it's working. And it's also sending a lot of other people rightfully into this, like what we're doing now. We're talking about it. A lot of people on the left are pointing this out and calling it out for what it is, and it gives them, I think they get a kick out of it because they can sort of point and laugh at us, saying that we're all hysterical when they are doing literal Nazi salutes. Like
Yeah.
the whole thing's insane. You know, we mentioned in the chat earlier that how insane it is that this has just become like a normal thing.
Well, yeah, because I said so I was trying to get Lewis to come on, but he's busy because he loves to talk about American. Sorry, I have a bit of a cough, by the way. American politics. And I was like, oh, yeah, so we're just going to cover CPAC and all the Nazi salutes and stuff. And I just said it so casually and glib. And then he was like, wow, that sentence was so normalized. I was like, it is normalized. Like, I'm not even shocked by it. That's what the way I said it was like, yeah, just some Nazi salutes again. Pretty used to it. It's fucked up. Really, really fucked up. And also, I just want to say to these people, right, they are a bunch of fucking pussies. I mean, like, they keep doing it and then saying, oh, no, we didn't do it. Oh, you know, it was just a wave. My heart goes out to you. And it's like, why are you so scared? I mean, we're up against, like, monstrous people, right? And they're brave enough to, like, stand up, you know, and do a speech on TV and do the salute. But then they fucking proper, like, cower away. They are cowards, and it's pathetic. And the reason why is because, yes, Nazis are dangerous. Yes, Nazis are monstrous. But deep down, I think they are just weak and pathetic. Like, if you're a fascist, right, and if you subscribe to that ideology, you are weak. You are utterly weak. If you're a white supremacist, you're a weak man or whoever. Utterly weak and pathetic, and you haven't gone outside and touched grass. You have no soul. You don't have anything going on in your life. And I think we need to make that the case. Like, we need to continually express and show that people like Musk and Bannon and all these people that follow it and MAGA, they're not strong people. Despite the fact that the ideology of white supremacy is like, oh, you've got to be strong. They're weak and pathetic people. And that's why they won't admit what they're doing. You know, just say you're a fucking Nazi. But they're pathetic.
But I think that as well, they're trying to appeal to all the other Nazis and neo-Nazis, and you know all the people who, you know, the people with the fucking swastika tattooed onto the chest. You know, they want to appeal to those people because they want those people, but they also want those people to go out and march on the streets. They want those people. I mean, Christ, you know, Trump's just let a load of them out of prison, for God's sake, after the riots. They want these people to fight, because I think they're hoping that it'll it'll force everyone else into submission, and it will make anyone that isn't a literal Nazi sit down, shut up, and not stand up against the literal fascism that we're seeing taking place in America right now.
Yeah, I mean, they operate in dog whistles, don't they? And that's why they do it, because it's like, I'm signaling to you at home who knows what I mean, you know, organize and get together. Because obviously they can't say, oh yeah, we are Nazis,
and that's why they deny it, because if they openly said that they supported that, then internationally, you know, every self-respecting government, or even non-self-respecting government, you know, certainly all the Western governments, EU, us here in the UK, you know, Canada, Australia, the Commonwealth, we would all have to come out at a government level and say, you know, we cannot condone this, we do not support this, and call it out. And that would cause huge ramifications internationally. Whereas by not admitting it, then, you know, it's like you're talking about plausible deniability. You know, even governments elsewhere can say, oh, well, maybe he didn't mean it because he didn't say he meant it. But if they actually come out and say, yes, it was a Nazi salute, and we meant what we did, it stirs some pots and causes some problems on an international stage. And I think it's, you know, appeal to those sorts of people, but do it in a way that, you know, means that everyone else internationally can't, certainly at a government level, call it out for what it is.
And I also want to say as well, it's not Nazi salute, it's Nazi salutes, plural, because Cal, he wasn't the only one that did the salute, and we've got a video of another person doing it.
That's why I'm going to join the Elon Musk and President Trump's movement. My heart goes out to all of you. Fight, fight, fight.
So you
and
see
now we've
there
got
again,
fight again.
Yeah, they've coupled it with the words fight, fight, fight. It's all very, very deliberate. Again,
At
like
least, at least with that one, and I'm just trying to, I'm just trying here to try and you know, compartmentalize the insanity of what we are witnessing. I am in no way making excuses, and I am no way defending this. At the very least, with that one, he said, "My heart goes out to you." As he was doing it, he was making a clear reference to the Elon Musk thing, and at least with this one, he was trying to pretend it wasn't a Nazi salute. Steve Bannon didn't even pretend; he just full out went for it.
The thing is, though, I mean, like,
This is insane.
obviously
Curtis.
afterwards, because with Calvin Robinson, because do you know what? That's actually 4 now. That's Elon Musk, Steve Bannon, Calvin Robinson, and whoever the fucking jackass this guy
Shit,
is.
I
Like,
forgot
I
Calvin
don't.
Robinson had done one as
Yeah,
well.
I don't know who this
Stripped of
guy
his
is.
collar
Right?
for that, didn't he?
Apparently, this Mexican politician is like, he was so much of a failure. Like, he didn't get enough like signatures to run. So like, he's just a fucking irrelevant twat, and this is the height of his sort of career. But the thing is, like, when Calvin Robinson did his, he also said, "Oh, my heart goes out to you," right? And you can't even like really deny that, because obviously the excuse for Musk was, "Oh, you know, he was doing the 'my heart goes out to you.'" So when you say that, it's like, you know what you're mimicking. You can no longer say, "Oh, I was just waving," or "I was just doing this and that." It's like, but Musk and Calvin Robinson have been in the media for doing that. Like, so you know exactly what you're doing. And again, it's like, it's so obvious. Just come out and fucking admit it, but they won't.
You know that thing about I can't remember the exact quote, but was it something Trump had said last time about how, I say last time, as in last time he was president, about he could walk out. Was it him that said it? He could walk out onto a corner in New York and shoot someone.
He
And
could walk
everyone
onto like Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and wouldn't lose a vote. And that was during the
yeah,
first election, or
I,
before he.
I feel like this is like that. I feel like it, metaphorically speaking, they're going around shooting people, but they say when they do it, they're saying, "Oh well, we mean it with love." It's like, okay, so it's okay to kill someone as long as you do it with love. Then it's okay to make a Nazi salute as long as you're saying your heart goes out to people. It's insane. How the hell did we get to this? It's insane.
Exactly. I've also got another video of Steve Bannon, and this is actually him talking to. It's not on stage. Someone else is filming, and it's like, you listen to this, and it's unequivocally Nazi rhetoric. Like, you can't explain it away.
Where are you from?
I was born in Jerusalem. Folks from USSR said that expelled into real socialism. My question is to you is this: what do you think about foreign aid to Israel? Is it a strategic partnership?
Israel is a partner of the United States, but people in Israel got to understand something. The number one enemy to the people in Israel are American Jews that do not support Israel and do not support MAGA. Okay, MAGA and the evangelical Christians and the traditional Catholics in this country have Israel's back. They have the Jews' back. The biggest single enemy to the Jewish people are not the Islamic supremacists. The biggest enemy you have is inside the wire. Progressive Jewish billionaires that are funding all this stuff. They are the number one enemy, and the people in Israel have to set that right. Because MAGA has your back, traditional Catholics have your back, and evangelical Christians have your back. We will always have the back of Israel. But I got to tell you, you have an enemy inside the wire.
The only
Specifically, enemy like the enemy within. Like, that is classic fascist dog whistling. And I notice he says the problem isn't Islamic supremacists, right? Which I find quite funny, because obviously for the last like 20, 30 years, the main target of the far right was Muslims, right? But he has specifically said, no, it's not them. It's essentially anti-Zionist Jews. And he's basically saying, if you're Jewish and you don't subscribe to MAGA or Israel, then you're the enemy. And he specifically says progressive billionaires, also a dog whistle, because he's basically saying, there's no issue with billionaires. It's just Jewish billionaires. I don't know how anyone can look at that and say that's not anti-Semitism or fascism. Can you?
It's really quite worrying, isn't it? Especially when you couple it with what we've seen in recent years, and with people that support Palestine and call out a genocide or accused of anti-Semitism, while the people accusing those people of anti-Semitism are out making dog whistle statements about billionaire Jewish people being the enemy from within, making literal Nazi salutes. So appalling was the salute that Bannon made that it was even too much for the leader of the French far right, who pulled out of making a speech at CPAC. I think I was reading today.
Yeah, was.
You know, as a result of that. Yet this has just become the new normal. I don't know what. I mean, help me out, Curtis. I don't know what to say.
It's gone so far that even Nick Fuentes, like the original modern Nazi, who says, "Oh, I am a Nazi, literally am," even he said, "I'm getting tired of the salutes." And I mean, wow, this world is so fucking broken. When you've got Nick Fuentes even saying, "This is too much." But like back to the billionaire thing again, it's so funny because obviously George Soros was the person he was really referencing, because George Soros is the right's enemy. And of course, the fixation on George Soros is absolutely anti-Semitism. Like for those of us on the left, we say billionaires because we're like, well, this is a class thing. Don't care what race you are. You can be a black billionaire. Like you are harming us because of your, the money and wealth you have, right? And the power that comes with it. But Elon Musk is everything that George Soros is to these people. They're like, George Soros controls everything. I'm like, yeah, George Soros as a billionaire does have some form of political power, which I don't like. I don't want billionaires. I don't want billionaires to exist, but I don't want billionaires having any kind of political power. So obviously, those of us on the left criticize George Soros, right? But Elon Musk is the richest, and now he's turned the US into a full-blown oligarchy. And suddenly, these people we kick off about George Soros are like, Musk? Oh yeah, he's great. It's because he's not Jewish. Plain and simple. They don't actually have an issue with billionaires getting involved in the political process. They don't have an issue with like ripping up democracy. It's just that George Soros is Jewish.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's blatant. It's blatant. My mind's gone blank. Anti-Semitism. It is just they're not trying to hide it. How do the West respond to this? How should what should the government do, if anything, in response to this? Because I feel like we're at a point where, I mean, we've had literal. I know we're going to come on to this shortly, but we've got British politicians who are attending this event, who are witnessing this stuff happen, who are present while some of this, anti-Semitism, Nazi rhetoric, and gestures and so on are taking place. And these are, people with some prominence within British politics. And what's our response to this? What should the government do to tackle this, or should they just ignore it in the interest of international relations?
It's kind of hard to say what should the government do about it, because you've got Peter Mandelson as the US ambassador who's saying, I was maybe wrong about Trump, or was probably too aggressive on him. I mean, I'll find the actual quote, but Peter Mandelson.
You were going to do your little rah voice then, weren't you?
Well, I probably was. Yeah, he says Peter Mandelson calls past remarks about Trump ill-judged and wrong. So he's already capitulating like a little bitch. And you're like, oh, what should the government do? Well, the government seems to be capitulating. Like in a half-decent government with a backbone would be like, I don't care if we have a special relationship with America. The fact that we've got Elon Musk doing Nazi salutes is so close to the president is a worry. And no, you've got Peter Mandelson saying, oh, actually, maybe we were... Because this is the exact quote. Peter Mandelson has said his past remarks that Donald Trump was a danger to the world were ill-judged and wrong. Like, Trump is a danger to the world. So... we can't rely on our government to do anything about it.
I'm sure I heard something from him today saying that Zelensky needs to stop moaning about the fact he's not been sat around the table, and that basically if he hadn't, and that he said something to that effect about how Zelensky should sort of. I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but it was basically like, well, he moans about not being around the table, but he shouldn't have started the fight. And it's like, he didn't start the fight.
Are you talking Mandelson or Trump?
Trump.
Oh,
Mandelson.
Trump. Okay, sorry. I thought you
No,
meant
no, not Mandelson. Not
Mandelson,
Mandelson.
because that would be really funny then.
No,
Because
no,
it's
no,
like,
no, no.
wow, even like the centrists and centre-right people have been proper like pro-Ukraine. But yeah,
No, Trump. But when you've got a president making statements like that, of course, there's a danger to the world. But of course, Mandelson can't. He has to retract that, right? Because he has to try and be diplomatic. And I,
to be fair
excuse
though,
me,
Carlo,
I don't think. Go on.
where the fuck has diplomacy got us though? And I'm not saying that like, oh, we shouldn't do diplomacy. I'm a massive advocate for diplomacy. What I mean is, where the fuck is diplomacy in terms of appeasement to bad people got us? So, like, obviously, Mandelson wants to walk back his comments about Trump because he wants to be diplomatic. But the point is, you're trying to be overly diplomatic, again, appeasing to Trump. Where has that like got us? Has it
I
made us?
suppose they would
Has it made
argue.
the situation better? No, it just means that you allow Trump to do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, I suppose that the British government and other governments would argue though that our relationship with the US, it's bigger than just one president, and if we turn the US into an enemy state today, even though Trump's essentially turning all of Europe
Yeah.
into an enemy state the way he's going with Russia, if we turn the US into an enemy state today, then when his president's over, we're going to have a lot of rebuilding to do. But I can't foresee a scenario where, come the next election, if there is one in the US, where even if it's a Republican candidate, actually, and maybe I'm being a bit hopeful, but I can't see a scenario where whoever succeeds Trump doesn't immediately turn around and say, right, we need to rebuild the relationships that Trump has fucked over. And I don't think that other governments calling out this rhetoric, this behaviour, the way that Trump's behaving, but also the way that people around him are behaving. I can't envisage a scenario where that would cause irreparable damage to the special relationship
Yeah,
after Trump. Trump is
exactly.
the one that's damaging the relationship.
Exactly. Like that, you're not gonna like. Right. I mean, first of all, I expect it's gonna be another like MAGA person, but let's just say it's a moderate Republican after Trump. Right? They're not gonna go, oh well, fuck the UK because Keir Starmer said mean things about Trump. No, they'd immediately want to get back into that special relationship and return things back to pre-Trump. So that's what's going to happen. I don't know if that's like their worry. I doubt it. I just think that fundamentally, people like Keir Starmer are appeasers. They have no backbone and they won't stand up to Trump. But also, it's bigger than like the Labour Party. The way the global hegemony is set up, the way that the US is this kind of superpower, it does make it very difficult to stand up to Trump. And it's not an excuse. It's just a reality of the situation, which is why it's going to be very interesting that Trump has kind of turned his back on Europe and on NATO. He's basically a Putin apologist. And maybe European states do become stronger in force against like Trump. Because, like, for example, when it comes to like tax avoidance, it's very difficult for maybe one singular country to attack sort of billionaires and companies trying to avoid taxes. But like the European Union is stronger together and maybe fighting that. And it's one of the good things about the EU. Like I support Remain, but obviously I have my criticisms of the EU. But one good thing is like you have the power to take on billionaires rather than a lone country. Maybe like the Union and Europe could band together to take on the US superpower. Who knows?
But that's the other thing. We've fucked up there because we've left the European Union, and I know there's probably people watching that are certainly not necessarily pro-Europe, but we've pulled out of this block of alliances, alienated ourselves from the rest of Europe, spent a lot of that time hanging on but our special relationship with the US, and now that's gone to shit. Like. We literally are just a tiny little island now, very isolated from the rest of international relations because, Europe appeases every now and then, but like we don't have the influence in Europe that we used to have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think like because we left the EU that if it comes down to like the Europe versus America, I don't think they're going to say fuck off to Britain. They're going to say, well,
no, and I don't think we would say fuck off to the EU and jump over to the US's side. But then again, that also depends on what happens here, right? Because right now, under this Labour government, that's probably not going to happen. but depending on where America goes and depending on what happens here in 4 years' time, you know,
Yeah. Right. Should we talk about Elon Musk?
do we have to?
Yeah, because this is just going to be half an hour of just taking the piss out of him.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah, and also everyone in the chat, please feel free to join in taking the piss out of the world's biggest loser, Elon Musk. So I've got a couple of clips. There are some clips where we're going to take on some of his arguments. But before, I just want to show you videos of him with. I've never seen anyone with such like zero riz or the lack of riz than Elon Musk. So let's take a look.
Hang on, this is a guy who's got 13 kids to multiple women, right?
Yeah.
No, so he's got zero riz, but this is money,
It's
isn't it?
fucking money, isn't it?
Yeah. Go on.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
Oh shit.
All right. I love it. Mr. President, thank you so much. All right. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Nice to meet you. I love it. We love it. We love it.
I mean, like, I think the host there is even like cringing. But Jacqueline's question though, I mean, I'm talking about what hypothetically our government would do, not what we would do.
Same.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, same. Just that chainsaw thing though, and like on you know, to the untrained eye, it's, you know, it's a silly gaff. It's, you know, it's lacking riz, like you say, is just you know, it's just goofing around and being a complete and utter prat. There's a deeper meaning to this though, you know, this chainsaw to bureaucracy. He's talking about, you know, all the cutting down he's been doing in all these government departments, but actually in real terms, that translates to the thousands of American civil servants, I suppose, for want of a better term, who have been thrown out of a job with pretty much, you know, no warning whatsoever. Well, I suppose, other than the warning that we knew that Musk was going to come in and do all this.
Yeah.
You know, the thousands of people in the US who now have no job, they've got no social security, they've got no idea, you know, where the next paycheck's coming in, and have just been made unemployed because Elon Musk, who's not even heading up an official government department because it's not been passed through Congress. It doesn't, you know, Doge doesn't exist officially within the structure of American government. Yet he's come along, cut with his chainsaw, you know, all of these jobs, and we've now got a situation where we've got thousands of people who are seriously struggling just overnight like that to pay the bills. They've lost the medical insurance because of it. You know, it's immediately having real harm on working people in America, people that worked within those government, you know, government bodies, government entities. And he's making a fucking joke about it by wandering around CPAC with a chainsaw. Like, you know, I don't even think it's funny. Like, watching that, I watched that and I just think, what a fucking arsehole.
But like I said on Twitter earlier, I was like, look, if we're gonna have a bunch of oligarchs bring down global society, can they at least be kind of cool, right? Can at least have some kind of riz? Because I've noticed that fascists, they don't know how to dress well and they don't know how to buy a proper suit. Like, if you watch Trump or Charlie Kirk or those around him, look at their suits. None of them fit, right? Look at Andrew Tate. He doesn't know how to wear a suit. They're too tight on the chest, too tight on the bottom. And like, fucking hell, if we're going to be destroyed, please, can you be kind of cool? I feel embarrassed.
I hope you never see me in a suit, Curtis, then.
But I feel embarrassed that we're going to be wiped out by this fucking cringy creep who doesn't know how to carry a chainsaw. And and actually, Wes G, you're right. The movies got it wrong because the movies made it out that the enemy was going to be like some super, I don't know,
super suave, you know,
smart masterminds. Yeah. They look, I mean, they were bad, but they look good. But fucking hell, this is what we got in real life is these utter dweebs. I mean, we've got another clip, which is again of Musk, him trying to be funny and trying to be a meme. And of course, he just embarrasses himself. The crowd barely laugh. And even, again, the host, you can tell he's actually cringing.
That was something.
I am become meme. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm living the meme. It's like there's living the dream and there's living the meme, and it's pretty much what's happening, you know.
You're like,
Notice how I am become meme got fuck all. So he then went living the meme and living the dream to try and like. He's just a dickhead.
I mean-
He reminds me of the class clown at school who was actually a bully, who was picking on everyone else, calling everybody else names because of their own insecurities. They never actually hit you. They never actually beat the shit out of you. They got the henchmen to do that for you. But then when the teachers would come in, they'd make all these really pathetic jokes and all these sort of silly gaffes to try and sort of be a teacher's pet and sort of look all innocent and look all, oh, look at me, I'm just a bit of a silly goof. Meanwhile, calling you every name under the sun and making you feel like shit, and then laughing about it while his mates beat you up and he got off scot-free. That's what it reminds me of.
What's with the
I don't know if that's
sunglasses
a good analogy,
indoors?
but-
I think he's high. I think he's on cat there. And he's
Probably.
trying to show it because he's non-stop on cat. Like we've heard stories of him like being high at Twitter HQ. We've heard stories of like, oh, someone was mean to him on Twitter and they locked himself in a room, and he's like, we didn't know if he was going to harm himself or not because he's so egotistical, and he knows he's hated, but his idea of responding to it is like doubling down. But yeah,
Just go on.
well, I was gonna say we're gonna go to a clip of like him actually talking, and we can actually respond to what they're saying or what he's saying. So it's not all just like take the piss out of his vibes. We are gonna actually get to some proper political content. Let's take a look.
Yeah, they did go crazy.
yeah, they went crazy.
No, I mean that whole cancel culture and it's trying to stop freedom of speech and infringe upon people's personal freedoms.
Sorry to pause. This is the guy who if you say the word cis on his platform,
Yes.
you get flagged immediately, right? Just on the freedom of speech thing.
They just want state control of what you say. They want to take away your guns. And the reason they want to take away your guns, so like there's nothing you do to oppose them. So
The
it's
reason they want
sort
to
of
take
like
away the guns is because kids keep getting murdered.
I just like we just need to restore the fundamental elements of what made America great, which is freedom and opportunity.
Yeah, so let's unpack that. Elon Musk is talking about freedom. You're right. First of all, on his own platform, you can't say the word cisgender. That's banned. He's banned a bunch of journalists who were critical of people he liked. Donald Trump has said that he's literally gonna like shut down some media organizations or even criminalize certain journalists because they dared hold him accountable.
Well, the
Like,
Associated Press is banned from press briefings because they won't call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. So they've banned
Oh,
them.
really?
Yeah. So the Associated Press now are not allowed to go to press briefings in the Oval Office and certain briefings at the White House because, according to the press secretary, they made it very clear that any news outlet that reports fake news and that doesn't report the truth won't be allowed into the briefings. And because the Associated Press, who are obviously global, keep as still referring to the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of Mexico, that is apparently fake news. So they're banned from going to these briefings. It's insane.
So the biggest sort of proponents of freedom, it's like pure projection. They don't care about freedom at all. Like, let's think about not just Musk and the fascists and stuff. Let's talk about the entire conservative movement. They say that they hate state control, yet they want to control women's bodies. So like if you want an abortion, the state basically will mandate you to keep that baby even in terms of rape, right? That's state coercion. They want to ban gay marriages, right? That's the state bearing down on people's individual choices. We've just I saw a video of Hunter Schafer, the trans actress, and she was showing she made a video about how she had to change her passport from F to M. Now that is the state literally mandating someone to change their pronouns on their passport. So instead of like self-ID, right? That's a libertarian view. wanting to have documents to reflect how you feel and you're presenting identity or your identity, that is a libertarian view. The state mandating that you can't do that is the state clamping down on you. Now, they never talk about that, right? Conservatives and right-wingers never talk about that. They talk about freedom in a way that the state is overbearing because they want the state to allow the market to basically run everything. So they don't want protections. They don't want regulations. They don't want the minimum wage. A lot of them don't want child labor laws. These are the sorts of things that they think the state is overbearing, which protects people from, you got it, corporations who have the power. But when it comes to like social and cultural issues, they want to control absolutely everything.
Yeah, 100%. They don't the way that they talk about it though, like what Musk's doing there is he's almost using cancel culture as a dog whistle itself, because he's talking about the things that will appeal to the voters. When he's saying about freedom of speech, the voters hear that and think, yeah, because I can't call my black neighbors the N-word anymore.
Yeah, that's
without
basically what it is,
getting
isn't it?
upset about it, and that appeals to them. But like you say, what he actually is referring to is he wants to do away with regulation and protections for working people. It I'll be honest with you, I'm a really crap guest to have on today, Curtis, because
No, you're not.
I'm at the point with it now where I just feel like I feel like it's beyond political commentary at this point. It has just gone so. You hear the right saying, "Oh, everything's gone way too far in the country now. You can't say or do anything." This whole situation has just gone so far off the charts. I mean, he talks about freedom and wanting to make America great again. I always think going way back to my A levels. I did a big deep dive into the title of the essay was the downfall of the Native Americans, 1830 to 1930. And it was probably that was a title that was given to me, and I wasn't really a fan of the title because it wasn't really the downfall. It was a mass extinction events caused at the hands of the settlers that went over and murdered and committed mass genocide on the natives. And when it always makes me shudder a bit hearing Americans or people that are supporters of America and their argument around freedom and liberty and all this, to hear them talking about that as if not even 200 years ago was there a mass migration of immigrants, these people's ancestors. I mean, let's forget about the fact that Musk isn't even American, but that's a whole other argument. Coming over to America and committing a genocide on a mass scale of Native Americans, forcing them to follow their religion. So much for freedom. Yeah, you will be a Christian. You will speak English. You will live the way that we say you're going to live. You will go on these reservations. You will do exactly as we say. And obviously, it's for your own good. But you will do what we say. If not, we will kill you. We will rape your women and your children, and we will destroy your very way of life. And then they brand it up as, oh yeah, America, the land of the free. And it always really angers me, and I think a lot of Americans and a lot of the MAGA lot I think they just need a history lesson, because we're not. I know people say, oh well, how far back do you go, but we're only going 90, even in the 100 years back. This, I mean, even today, there's Native Americans that are still on reservations, but it's fairly recent history. And when they talk about making America great again, what they're talking about is they're talking about to go into a time where racism was rife, where there was segregation, where sexism was a normal thing that was perfectly allowed and okay, where you could rape people, where you could be racist, be homophobic, and get away with it, and where you had no regulation in the workforce. You had 5 and 6-year-olds climbing up scaffolding, building big skyscrapers for all the richest people, and all the whites men of a certain age got to do whatever the hell they wanted and fuck everybody else. That's what they mean when they say "Make America Great Again." And I think they either need a history lesson, or they need to start listening more in these Christian churches that they're apparently all so fond of.
I mean, I sympathise with you when you say there's no analysis anymore, because it what is there to say? To be fair, we spent the first half on this just take the piss of the way they act, because it's true though. Because right, that's 4 Nazi salutes now. So next week, then there's going to be another one. There's not any really. We've kind of exhausted the analysis, but it's obviously something we also can't ignore. I also like your point though about when it comes to sort of Christian theocracy or the religion itself. Christian nationalists are right wing. Yeah, if they were to at least do half of their teachings or follow their scripture, they'd be communists. Now, of course, there's some really violent shit in the Bible, of course. But it's so funny how, I mean, I've seen debates on Fox News when you got pundits saying that Jesus was a capitalist. I don't think so, buddy.
You've not read the Bible.
it would be wise to even follow some of their own scripture. I'm glad Andy Carter brought up this comment, because I was going to actually come on to this point. Free market is nonsense. The corporations get no end of help from the state. It's absolutely true, because as I was saying that how conservatives want the state to pull out essentially from the market, and they want to sort of become authoritarian when it comes to your individual life, right, and how you live. That's also not really true, because they love to use the state to manipulate the market. In fact, they love to use the state to help corporations. If you haven't read it already, you need to read Grace Blakely's Vulture Capitalism, because the premise of that is basically there's this false binary between socialism's complete state control and capitalism is complete freedom. That's horseshit. Obviously, socialism isn't about state control, but capitalism loves state control. First of all, it often works with the state. It will use the state. I mean, right now, an example is Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk's Doge department isn't about cutting bureaucracy or fraud. What he's doing is he's using Doge to just cut things he doesn't like. He's like, oh, well, I don't like cancer research. Let's cut that. Oh, I don't like regulation. Let's cut that. But also, he's happy to use the state to enrich himself and his friends. In fact, Elon Musk's entire career has been built on government subsidies. He is a literal birth child of the state, yet he's rallying against the state. I think he should give all that money back. And in terms of the corporation, not only does it work with the state, but the corporation itself is like a state. So think about it. When you go to work, especially for big business, you're told what you have to wear, what you can say and do, what your work is, how much you're paid, and how long you work for. There's no sense of democracy in the workplace, the place where we spend most of our time. So it's so funny how conservatives and right wingers, and let's be honest, pretty much from the center to the right, because the center buy into neoliberalism too, is that the state needs to back off, because the state is the only form of coercive control, and private corporations aren't. Well, tell me how much say you have at your workplace. You absolutely don't. And actually, I mean, obviously it's not common practice now, but if you go back in the 1910s and 20s and 30s, read up on Henry Ford and Fordism. Now, Henry Ford, of course, had factories, because obviously he sold the Ford car. I think it was the Model T, the first one. But he didn't just have coercive control of his workers at the workplace. He had coercive control over their behaviors outside work. They had to behave in a certain way. They had to be essentially Christians. And he basically mandated what they had to do outside, because he wanted a good representation of his business. It was about power control. Even today, there are practices in America where some companies are allowed to take drug tests. Now, I'm not saying that people should be getting high and then going to work. No, but that's a assault on your personal freedom and liberty. Why should a corporation be allowed to stick a needle in you and dictate what you should do outside of work? So what these conservatives either don't understand, or they do understand, they don't care, is that corporations are tyranny too. And libertarians and these people are like, oh, well, I don't care about tyranny, only when the state do it. Well, our socialists are like, we don't like any form of control, whether it's the state or corporations. They don't understand that hypocrisy.
But the control only applies when it applies to the average worker, right? Because the drugs test thing that you alluded to,
Yeah,
You know, Elon Musk wouldn't have to have a drugs test. The CEOs and the bosses in these companies and corporations that are drug testing their the workers wouldn't have to have the same drugs test, and many of them would be turning up, high as a kite on coke or ket or whatever it is that they've chosen, whatever their chosen substance is. And it's all right for them to do it because they're wealthy, they're rich, they've got the money. It would never apply to them. I want to just mention as well, Tracy's said, so I know you've brought Rachel's comment up, but if we can come back to that in 1 second. Tracy's said Hitler was off his head with drugs too, but he still murdered millions. And I think there's a really frightening point in all of this at the moment and everything that we're seeing right now. And it not that the way that they're treating working people and the implications for this on workers isn't already huge and a big problem. But we've already got Trump planning to put what he calls illegal immigrants into what is essentially a concentration camp.
Yeah.
We've talked already about the Nazi salutes, and we've seen most of the West over the past couple of years completely refuse to acknowledge a genocide when it's taking place directly in front of our eyes, and not respond to it, and actually actively take part in it, and be complicit in it. And what really frightens me is that the way, bear in mind, Trump's not even been in office a month yet, or maybe just about now. Yeah, he just about has now, hasn't he? Just over a month. And we've still got like nearly 4 years of this, and it's only going to get worse. And it concerns me that that when we've got the talk of the concentration camps in Guantanamo Bay, although they're not going to call it that, we've got people making literal Nazi salutes. They're using this fight, fight, fight rhetoric. Trump's already alienating America from the rest of the West with his comments about Ukraine, and he's sort of cozying up to Russia. Couple that with what we've already seen from all the other governments in the way that they don't act when allies commit genocide. I'm frightened for what's going to happen when Trump starts killing off these so-called illegal immigrants because he hasn't got room for them all in the camps he's putting them into, and it's easy for them to be given the death penalty because they've entered illegally, which is something that they now can technically do, looking at the very deliberately placed Oxford comma in one of the changes to the legislation that was made recently regarding the death penalty in immigration, and crimes committed by immigrants and people that weren't born in the US. And I'm not confident that we've got a government that will stand against that. And this is where I was saying earlier about how I feel as though it's beyond any sort of political analysis. I feel like I'm in the middle of Don't Look Up. If you've not seen it, go and watch it. It's a really good film. But I feel like I'm in the middle of that, and I'm literally screaming at people like, just look right in front of you. You will see this for what it is. We need to do something now because it's right there. It's right there. You can see it. It's right there. And everyone's just going, no, there's nothing. No, but my heart goes out to you.
Yeah. It's like they just accuse of being alarmist, right? And it's you call everyone a Nazi that you disagree with. And my response to that is, first of all, there are a lot more Nazis in the world than you think. So that's why you hear it often. And secondly, it's not, for me anyway, I don't call anyone I disagree with a Nazi. There are many conservatives who I don't like or don't agree with their politics, but I'm like, well, they're not a fascist. Like, there are plenty of people, but when someone is a fascist, when someone is doing a Nazi salute, call it for what it is. And I think we should start saying to these people, well, you're just Nazi appeasers then. And had you been alive during the Second World War or before then, and during the Crystal Night and stuff, you'd be saying, oh, you're alarmist against Hitler. That's what you'd be doing.
But I remember at school, learning about all this, and everybody was everybody was adamant. Everyone had the same feeling of, how could anyone have allowed this to happen? And if we'd have been,
It's clear how it's happened. We're seeing it today. That's how
even
it
as
happened.
kids, and if we were living through that, we would have called it out. We would have stopped it. We wouldn't stand for this. And now we're living through it, and the vast majority of people are stum about it. Just on the point you made earlier about even Nick Fuentes saying that he feels uncomfortable with the salutes, I've just seen a message from Lewis that absolutely sums up exactly how I'm feeling right now. What fucking timeline is this? Like,
yeah, I mean, when I was like, I think this is a fucking upside down world, and I think we're all in like a collective coma or something. That even Nick Fuentes is doing this. I do want to just quickly say though, thank you, Rachel, for the $2. It says $2 in there, so the screen's really small. Look up Eamon Animation's horror videos about Musk. I mean, I just googled it and the thumbnail's freaking me out, but I will check it out. But I really appreciate you sending us a $2 donation. We're going to go to our last video, and it's a bit closer to home. It's still at CPAC, but it is actually of Nigel Farage. So let's have a listen to what he said. And by the way, he does a literal mean unironically.
And what a time it is to cross the pond. My country. You can't say anything or you might get put in prison. We're getting poorer. Everybody's miserable. We're governed by a left-wing, awful government. Suddenly, post-November the 5th, America is optimistic. It's upbeat. It's the beginning of the golden age in America. And it is all because of one totally extraordinary individual. I can tell you that if you take on the establishment, they do not come out with a tray of drinks. The whole of the British establishment wanted us to be members of the globalist European Union. All the parties, all the big businesses, all the trade unions. And it was almost me alone saying, this is a crazy idea. We want control of our sovereignty, our borders, and our identity back with the British people. And for daring to say that, they made my life hell.
It's interesting, Curtis.
Farage.
I don't remember there being a Maryland in Clacton. Whereabouts is that?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, can this guy just go to fucking Clacton and do his job?
Donald Trump's spoken. I've just seen a thing while we've been on air where Trump's been talking, and he said that Nigel Farage took the election by storm, and they say he's going to do even better this time. He took the election by storm. He got. Don't get me wrong. Like we were shocked when that exit poll came through and it said they were going to get 17 seats. We were like, oh fuck. They got 5 MPs. Okay, yes, they're polling ahead, and things aren't looking great. But this idea that Farage won the election or took the election by storm is insane. I love that you can't say anything in this country without going to prison, except Nigel Farage is still walking free, right?
Well, let's unpack that video. First of all, I mentioned that he did the meme. He literally said, "Oh, these days, you say you're English, you get thrown in jail." He literally said that, which is obviously pathetic. Now, obviously, this is in reference to the way the right frames it is. Oh, you get thrown in jail for sending a couple of tweets. No, incitement of violence and hatred and literally. I mean, the first person that got sent to jail literally said we should light politicians on fire, and basically helped drum up the riots. And obviously, within those riots, the hotel was set on fire with refugee children.
No, I think she directly said that we should.
Directly said it, right?
Yeah, if it's the wife of the Conservative councillor, she said
she
said that the asylum hotel should be burnt to the ground or something along those lines.
So obviously there's that. He then talks about he then because he said there's this one member of the establishment, one specific person. He didn't mention him by name. I wonder if he means by Tony Blair. But let's talk about the EU. First of all, he acts like he was the only person speaking out against the EU. There were many people, and there were people on the left. For me, I mean, I had a complicated...
Jeremy Corbyn. What?
Well, there was a
friend of the show.
I had a friend of the show. I had a complicated sort of time with the EU. I mean, at the beginning, when it got called, I was like, oh, we should leave. And then I was like, no, I think I started as soft Remain. And I went from soft Remain to like quite hard, like not hard Brexit and a hard Brexit deal, as in like I was quite convinced that we should leave. And then I went, actually, no, we should remain. So I ended up doing remain at the end of the day. But there were some people on the left who were like, we should leave the EU because of issues. Now he says, well, I was that man who wanted to leave the EU to bring back our sovereignty. Yeah, you want to take this sovereignty, then give it to a fucking billionaire. You want us to become the 51st state of the US. It's really, really strange that these political figures on the right who talk about the bureaucracy or the power vacuum. I'm getting my words mixed up. Sorry. Talking about the authoritarianism of the EU and lack of sovereignty. Yeah, you want to give it to the US. There's a massive contradiction there.
But he doesn't want to just give it to the US. He wants to give it to the US and a man who isn't even elected an elected official.
Literally, that's
Elon
the point.
Musk. You know, I mean, look, I sort of, I jested with it, I half jest with the Corbyn comment. You know, Labour's stance on Brexit was an odd one at that time. Excuse me, but you know, he rightfully criticised it where there were criticisms to be made. You know, we shouldn't sit and pretend that the EU is all hunky dory. But yeah, I think I've lost my train of thought. But in terms of you know, giving away sovereignty to the US, it seems like people like Farage only care about sovereignty if it means that them and people.
I don't think he cares about sovereignty at all, though, because he wasn't fighting the EU because it cares about sovereignty. Obviously, he has his issues with the EU, but I don't think he actually wants sovereignty of the British people.
Well, no, when he talks about sovereignty, what he means is he wants things to be done the way that he and his mates want it done, and that then he can be sovereign. He doesn't care about the rest of the, which is why, you know, when it's the EU, it's a problem, but when it's the US, that's absolutely fine. Everybody's supposed to be contradictory, though.
Actual governance of the country is way more important than remaining leave. Yeah, I agree. Like, if you I feel like this is where the left and liberals diverge, right? Well, they diverge in a lot of things, right? But especially on the EU, because if you were to say to me, would you want a progressive or socialist government, but you're outside the EU? I'd be like, I want that. Or a moderate conservative government in the EU. I suspect a lot of liberals would take the conservative government being in the EU, whereas I take a left-wing government outside the EU. Because at the end of the day, the thing that matters the most is policy. And
if they're a true left-wing government, then yes. I'm just looking at my my EU beret that I've got on the wall from the People's Vote March here, but just debating whether I should be wearing it or not. But no, I think that's fair. I think if we can actually have some real socialist progressive policies, I would take that over, conservative membership of the European Union. But these people, they don't give a shit. They don't care about those things. They want more power for themselves. And actually, you know, when Farage talks about things like sovereignty, what he wants is he wants conservative or reform governments to be able to get away with shit that the rest of Europe wouldn't allow. That's why he wants to leave, you know, why he wanted to leave the EU. That's why he's got no problem with the likes of Trump and Elon Musk, taking any form of influence over our politics and our policies here in the UK, because they're the good guys, right? You know, because they want what he wants. What's Lynn saying?
Well,
all about pro-European.
FBPE supporters even now call for a return to Europe, don't care about the extreme right domination or people like von der Leyen. I mean, yeah, so my
I disagree with that.
Well, my real issue with the FBPE lot is that, like, Brexit was their biggest issue. And look, would I rather be in the EU? Yes, but I think calling for a return to Europe right now is really out of touch. I mean, the second referendum from the Labour Party was so out of touch. Like, we're not going to rejoin the EU. And by the way, if we had the choice to rejoin the EU but had to join the Euro, fuck that. I'd definitely rather stay out. We have we have the pound. We have an independent currency. And that is really, really good. It allows us to do a lot of things that many countries can't do. I don't want to be dictated by the fucking troika. So that's my problem with FPV.
But I don't think that you've just bring the comment back up a second for me, Curtis. Sorry. I don't think that they I don't think they don't care about the extreme right domination. I don't think that's the case. And I think in fairness, and it's only anecdotal, but from what I've seen, because bear in mind I wouldn't say I was radicalized by Brexit, but I certainly got more involved politically with political activism and following politics at around about that time. And Brexit was certainly one of the big things that I was campaigning against, particularly after the fact when we realised just what a shit show it was going to be. And I've moved in a lot of those circles with the exact type of people that you're referring to. And I know that a lot of them have put Brexit behind them and have now moved on to bigger and better things. Brexit was the big thing. Follow back pro-European thing was what got some people active. And I've seen a lot of those people now moving on to fight for more progressive, more left-wing policies. And there's a divide. You've got all the Lib Dem lot that were involved with that are still obviously big Lib Dems. But then you've got the sort of those people like myself that were on the left. That were more on, much more to the left, or socialists who wanted to stay in the EU, who are now putting a lot of their time and energy into that, which is why a lot of the the European movement and is it Labour and a Change in Europe and all those groups are now sort of struggling and not doing particularly well because they've lost a lot of the not necessarily the members, but people are just. They're like, yeah, cool, Brexit's done. Let's deal with the actual real shit that's happening right now. Because in my view, I still think we would be better off rejoining the European Union. I think we're better off part of that bloc for all its faults. Not if they force the euro on us, mind you. But I think we're better.
That's an absolute red line. You can't.
But I think we're better off. We were better off when we were in the EU than we are currently.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
for sure.
if we could go back, and I don't think Europe would allow it, and there's a whole other debate. But I think if there's a way where we can get back to what we had, I think that will be absolutely better.
Well, I had this discussion with Lewis, right, and I said I don't think that will happen. I think they will say you come back, you go on our terms, include the euro. Whereas Lewis actually believes that they may even give us a favourable deal because they prefer us to be in. But really, we also have to acknowledge, right, that the European Union is breaking up. Like there's troubles with the EU as well. It's not this like fine and dandy organization, sort of institution, union, whatever you call it. So like they have problems too. I do want to respond to Jacqueline's comment. I think Corbyn losing the 2019 election was a bigger issue than Brexit, and then Starmer tricking his way into the leadership position. I agree. I don't think like Brexit was the only thing, and had Labour stuck to their Brexit policy, I'm not saying they would have won because there were many issues. Obviously anti-Semitism, as in the fabrication of it in the media, hurt Jeremy Corbyn. I think also as well, the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn lost that insurgency edge that they had in 2017, because in 2017 they started from a place with like only 200 odd seats, and basically like it was an insurgents campaign. But then for 2 years, because it was a hung parliament, Corbyn became kind of institutionalized within Parliament, and Corbyn is much better as a campaigner, but he had to be sort of a government in waiting and a prime minister in waiting, whilst he had to deal with all the internal bullshit and the coups and stuff.
And I don't think it's
weakened him.
I don't think it's a separate issue though. Like I think this, and I understand what Jacqueline's saying, but I think that. I don't think there's one without the other. I think Brexit played a massive part in Corbyn losing that election.
I think it's the biggest role, but I don't think they would have won.
But I think that 2019 election particularly was still was. I mean we'd had a period of deadlock in Parliament, before Boris Johnson came along, because Theresa May made a stupid decision to hold a general election in 2017 and lost a majority, and. I think that for a lot of people, Brexit was one of the main things that caused them to vote. And I think if Labour, that's why I made the dig at Corbyn earlier, because I think if Labour's Brexit policy had been one side or another, rather than and I get why he did it, but rather than this sort of weird fence sitting thing, I think that would have swayed it more in favour of Labour. But also, I think we need to just bring it back to Farage and the the whole CPAC thing. I think that, excuse me, we need to remember that Trump, Farage, Reform, and Brexit they're all part of the same machine. You know, you've got the whole Cambridge Analytica thing with Trump the first time around, and with Brexit. You know, you've got the rumours. I don't know whether they were ever confirmed or not about Dominic Cummings and his influence on Trump and Musk, but the propaganda machines behind them, the funding models behind them, the rhetoric behind them, they are all playing from exactly the same hymn sheet. They're all coming out of the same playbook. And I actually think that if we are to really defeat this rise in the far right and fascism and Trump and Farage and everything that goes with it, I think that we can learn a lot from the way that Brexit was handled and the campaign and what led to it and why people voted that way. Because I think a lot of the reasoning and a lot of the way the propaganda influenced people it's a carbon copy into a different campaign, but the rhetoric and the sort of the bulk behind it is the same: anti-immigrant, anti-minority, racist, fascist, pro-Nazi rhetoric. It's exactly the same shit that caused Brexit, caused Trump the first time around, has led to reform. You know, it's all part of the same thing, and I think we need to understand that. And I don't know how we use it, but I feel like there might be an answer in there somewhere.
Okay. I think we're going to leave it there. I know it's a bit of a short one tonight, but I want to thank everyone who tuned in. Thank you for putting up with fucking Musk and all these weird Nazi dweebs. And I wish I could say, like, this is the last time we ever cover it, but we can't. So annoying. But at least we got to poke fun at them. Good to see usual suspects in the chat. Thank you, Rachel, for your super chat. If you want to support us, though, you can do that by doing multiple things. You can like the stream. If you haven't, by the way, please like the stream and share it. Tell your friends and family about Turn Left. You know, we've just hit 18,000 subscribers. Yay. And I was actually looking at, so I was looking at Navarra's numbers, because like sometimes I'm like, oh God, we've been doing this for like 4 years and we're not even on 20,000 subscribers. Navarra started in 2011, I think, and it took them 9 years, maybe nearly 10 years to get to 100,000. And then it only took them like a year to go from 100 to 300,000, and like a year from 300 to like 800,000. So actually we might be a bit bigger than we think. And I think this, I think big things can happen for us. If you want to support us financially, because we're all still volunteers, you can go to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. There you can go through our Patreon, which is a monthly subscription. Different tiers, I think as little as £3 a month, or there's a link there where you can give us a one-off donation. These, this stuff can help us get trains if we need to get anywhere for interviews and stuff, equipment, and also one day we like to like pay ourselves, and we can have a full-on socialist media organization we're working full-time. All of that would mean so much. And yeah, we need more left-wing media outlets out there because we've got such a big fucking fight in our hands.
So if we've got any people watching that are multimillionaires that would like to be and then we can follow in the footsteps of the right and start having millionaire donors. Yeah, just send some our way. Thank you so much, by the way, Andy.
Andy Carter, for gifting 5 Turn Left memberships. You are an absolute legend. I do want to say to people, if you're struggling with money and stuff, don't give us money. Like, do it only if you can. And like, if you can't afford it, there are so many different things you can do. Like, share our content on Twitter.
And TikTok as well. So
on TikTok as well. Please share our content on TikTok.
Please share, watch our, especially if you can't support us financially, and we understand that. We make money from our content as well. And it's the same on TikTok. So if you watch our content, if you watch the videos right the way through, if you comment on them, if you engage with them, and if you share them out so more people see them, that all helps us earn more money as well. So we can get financial support without you having to be out of pocket too. So yeah, please
Thank
please
you,
engage that
Mobius,
content.
for the gifted Turn Left membership. You are a legend. I think Kevin is streaming now, so we're going to raid into him.
Brill.
We'll give him a bit of love. So if you guys watching, you'll automatically be sent over to Kevin. Make sure you stay in this stream so you go over and give Kevin some love. Tell him that Turn Left loves him, because we love him very much. We are going to be back on Monday. I believe it's going to be COG. So you're going to be only one day without us. Then we're back on live on Monday. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Those watching, and also Cal, I hope you have a good weekend too. And
Thank you.
we will see you next time.
See you later.